up guys, it's Andrea and welcome back to my channel. I know it has been like a week or so since I have last uploaded, but guys, when I tell y'all I have legit been out trying to secure the bag, I have been trying to secure the bag. And as you guys can tell by the title, I will be talking about my interviews, that whole experience, how it went, because it is definitely a different type of thing. It's a different type of thing, and I want you guys to know how it went for me. And if you're interested to know, how it went, and if you want to know if I secured a job or not, keep watching. Okay, so I low-key try to keep this process as low-key as possible. Like when I started, when I started submitting my applications and all that, I did make a video, however, I think it was my nursing school update video where I was just talking about I was kind of going through the interviewing process, but I didn't really touch in on exactly what I was going through and how the interviews were going for me. So that is exactly what this video is going to be about today. But before I actually started to tell you guys my experience, I did want to say the type of interviews that I have been on, that I have experienced, because I know there are a lot of different ones, and you guys may not even know that, because honestly, I didn't even know what to expect when I started this process. But as far as everything, the interviews that I have experienced, so initially when I first started this entire process of applying to jobs, I got to experience it was like a one-on-one interview, more so like a pre-screening. So they would ask you basic questions, and if, they liked your answers, they liked your personality, this, that, and the next, then you got moved to the next round where they would they would interview you at their facility, and you would just interview with another group of people. So that's kind of like called a pre-screening interview. I did have a couple of those, which they were one-on-one. It was just me with another person, and 9 times out of 10, that person was like the hiring manager, or like a recruiter. It was one time it was a recruiter, another time it was like a hiring manager, which is like, the manager of the unit. Other times, this was actually here recently, I did have an interview it was again another one-on-one interview, but the way that this process worked was there was 2 steps that day, and it was kind of more so like a hiring event. So once I got past one phase, if they liked my responses, they liked my personality, they thought I would be a great fit for the unit, then you moved on to the peer interview. And so I got to experience that first step as well as that peer interview. And that peer interview, again, one time it was a hiring manager and I think a recruiter or something like that. And another time it was actually nurses who worked on the unit, which was really good. A really good experience to be able to really ask them those personal questions like, hey, what do you like most about the unit? What's the most challenging thing about the unit? Things of that sort. So I have been on a wide variety of interviews. Oh, and then another interview that I can't believe I forgot to mention, which I want to specifically point out to you guys so you make note that you are mentally prepared for this when it does come time. When it does come time for you to start interviewing. One of my interviews was like 10 people, I think. 10 people sitting around the table. I walked in the room, boom, interview started. So I just want to say to you guys, if you're not maybe good with communication or interviewing, even me personally, I feel like I'm really good with communication. I felt like I was good with interviewing, but a lot of times when you think of interviewing, I know like maybe for our high school jobs or even jobs that you guys may have now, whether it's in the grocery store, daycare, whatever it may be, a lot of times a normal interview or a basic interview, what you would think of is only like you and 2 other people. So just keep in mind, sometimes even some of my friends, they've had interviews where it's like at least 6 or 7 people in the room. My interview in particular had 10 people, so just be mentally prepared, keep your composure. But aside from all that, I just want to tell you guys my experience. Okay, so initially I was interviewing, from the jump, I'll be honest with you guys, I was multiplying. I was interviewing or submitting applications for multiple units. I have no problem telling you that to you guys, like, no problem whatsoever. So I interviewed with, or I submitted applications for mother, baby, L&D, NICU. I think I even submitted an application for a PEDS unit. And I just want to say, for me personally, like before I even started the application process, y'all probably know, I was like, oh, like all I'm going to do is submit applications for L&D, like that's it. That's all. I'm not going to do anything else. But then it was like I started to be realistic. So even though I was still applying to those L&D jobs, had a couple L&D interviews, I still wanted to, kind of pursue other interests that, fit me, that I felt like fit me, that I enjoyed the clinical experience. So that's what I did. I have, again, no doubt, no shame in saying that I interviewed for other units. And again, when it's time for you to decide, when you start submitting your applications, are you going to specifically apply to this unit and this unit only? Or are you going to apply to multiple units? Like I had even pointed out to you guys, it was in my update video that, L&D was very competitive. I said L&D was competitive, NICU was competitive. Peds, I didn't really go on an interview for Peds. I don't really know the competition when it comes to Peds, but I can imagine, those types of things are competitive. At least for me, in my environment, in my area here in Houston, that is very competitive. Everybody wants to be L&D nurse, everybody wants to do NICU, and everybody 9 times out of 10 wants to do Peds, and everybody wants to shy away from med-surg. So I started to become more realistic with myself, and like from the jump, that's when I started applying to multiple units. So as far as the interviewing process, I just want to talk about one interview in particular. Of course, I don't even know how many interviews in total that I did go on, but one interview in particular, which I guess I'll go ahead and throw this in there. The one interview in particular that I did accept the job offer, so that answers y'all's question. I do currently, if you do not see on my Instagram, I did accept the job offer. Some of you may have already seen what the position is, but please do not comment it down below. The cat got out of the bag quicker than I expected. I wasn't even trying to announce the position. My friends were announcing the position. It's a whole long story. But if you saw what the position is, please do not say anything in the comments down below. I will announce the position very soon. So for those of you who don't know, stay tuned. But that's like the interview in particular that I want to talk about. And that just so happened to be the interview that had 10 people in it. So let me get into it. Okay, so the thing is, with this interview, I was super nervous because I didn't know what to expect. Because this was actually the first time that I went into the hospital to interview, because my other interviews, majority of them were at hiring events. So they were at hotels or at venues somewhere. They weren't actually at the hospital. So this was the first interview that I was at the first hospital location. I spoke with the managers, educators, the nurses on the unit that I was applying for. So I was shook, and I felt like I was preparing for this interview for days. The night before, I could not sleep. I actually ended up having to go to clinical that morning, and I could not even pay attention at clinical. I was a hot mess.com. Okay, so what I want to do is walk you guys through this whole night before, the day, all of that. I just want to walk y'all through it without making this video too long. So let me go. So that night before, I was super nervous, didn't know how, this was gonna go. Again, I was actually interviewing at the hospital site, so there was my mind was everywhere. So when I started to really prepare for this interview, so I had it on a Tuesday, and I think probably that Sunday, I started to really look up videos, look up great responses, 2 basic nursing interview questions. But keep in mind, guys, that I've kind of been interviewing since February, March, since kind of probably the beginning of March. So a lot of times, I'm gonna be real with y'all, the questions that they ask are repetitive, even if it's not the same hospital system or the same unit. A lot of the questions become repetitive. So in the beginning, when you first have your first interview, at least for me, I know that it was super shaky, because it's very intimidating. It's a different type of interviewing. But once you know, you can kind of expect the questions that they're gonna ask you, that once you get kind of towards the end of your interviews, or you get that first interview in and you kind of know what to expect. Once you get to talking, for example, for me, once I had that interview, because I had been asked so many questions on all the interviews that I went on, that actual interview that I had that Tuesday, I felt like I was prepared, and I felt like I had good, solid answers that I felt like I could elaborate off of even more. So, it comes with time. My first interview was not perfect. I probably stuttered. I probably sounded crazy, but with practice, I even noticed myself getting better. Okay, that night before, again, I was reviewing my questions that I had in my notes on my phone, my responses, the basic questions that I normally get asked. That way I could kind of have it into memory. The main thing that I did not want is I did not want to sound like a pre-recorded tape, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times I feel like when you memorize stuff and you're saying it back to people, it sounds like you memorized it. And that's not what you want with these interviews. You want it to sound, genuine. You want it to sound like you actually, put the thought into it. And not saying if you memorize it, you didn't put the thought into it, but you don't want it to sound like an automated system. So I wanted to make sure that I had the foundation of what I wanted to say, but that I was also able to elaborate off of that foundation as well. So of course, something that I found really helpful for me is like that night and that morning before when I was getting ready for clinical, because I had clinical that morning before my interview. If I or when I stood in the mirror and I asked myself the questions, I looked myself in the eye and I answered the questions and I elaborated. And like that morning before, I was like, okay, like this sounds pretty good. Like you're ready to go in, kill this interview, secure this job. Not even gonna lie to y'all. When I came back home from clinical, got dressed for my actual interview, I looked in the mirror one more time and I was like, you know what, Leandria, you want this job. You're going to go get this job. You kill it. You show them why you deserve this job. And that's literally exactly what I did. It helps me go in with confidence. And, I was just ready to do what I had to do, ready to answer all the questions that were thrown at me. So when walking to the interview, again, like I told you guys, this is the interview where it was like 10 people in there. I sat on one side of the table and they were all on the other side of the table, of course, obviously, right? And I'm not gonna lie, when I first sat down, I was not expecting, that many people. And I actually made portfolios for them, like my resume, my reference letters, my cover letter, some of my academic achievements, some of the organizations that I'm in. And I had only made, I think it was 5 of them. So when I pulled them out, I was like, okay, so I only made 5. I realized, there's more people in this room than 5, but I made 5 and, they made a joke out of it. So that kind of lightened up the mood, kind of making a joke saying, okay, well, hey, you didn't print enough for everybody in here. Obviously, I didn't know that was going to be that many people in there. So just be prepared to, when you're bringing your resumes, I know I told y'all I would make an advice video for y'all, but just be prepared, when you start going on these interviews, that you bring multiple resumes, not just one. You need multiple resumes. I would say at least 7, because you never know what you're gonna walk into when you walk into the room for your interview. The actual interviewing experience, at first, it was really overwhelming. Not overwhelming, but it was just okay, Leandria, relax. Y'all know I have a tendency of sometimes talking fast, so I told myself, relax, take a deep breath before you answer, and do not zoom through your responses. So I feel like I handled that really well. And of course, with that many people in the room, as soon as I finished one response to another question, here comes another question, then another question, then another question. So it's just you have to be able to, adapt to the questions that you're being asked and give a logical response without carrying out your answer for so long. But okay, so some of the questions that I got asked a lot that, were asked in this interview, in other interviews, was why are you so passionate about this unit? Why should we choose you? Why did you choose this hospital? What else? What are your weaknesses? What are your strengths? When it comes to conflict, name a time you had conflict. How do you handle it? Just those types of questions. And you could easily Google those questions. And that's exactly what I did before I even started this process. I went in, Googled questions, and made my own responses to it. And I found that to be really helpful, because the last thing you want to do is go into these interviews not prepared, not having reviewed a single question, because they will be able to tell that. And I can probably tell you 9 times out of 10, you will not get the job. So boom, okay, the interview was over. I felt like it went super well. It was probably, so the interview was at, I think 3:30, and I think I walked out of the hospital at 4, if that. It was 30 minutes. It seemed like forever, but it was 30 minutes long. And then, so that was Tuesday. And so I think it was the following, or that Thursday, I had got a call, and I was actually at clinical that day, so I could not answer the phone call, but I had got the voicemail when I got to school. It's really confusing, but I didn't get the voicemail until Friday morning. For whatever reason, I don't know. Checked the voicemail while I was in class, and the recruiter was hey, I want to talk to you. It's good news, but I'm not going to be in the office on Friday, which was the day I was listening to the voicemail. She was I'm not going to be in the office on Friday, but at the latest, I'll talk to you on Monday. Boom, left it at that. Couldn't talk to her on Friday. Had to wait all weekend to hear from her on Monday, and that is when I was offered the job and I accepted the position. So guys, honestly, all of this is really surreal, and it's really an exciting time, especially when you get that offer letter and you get that offer to go work on the unit that you want to go work on, that you have a passion for, that, you know, you've had clinical experiences there and you love the hospital, you love the units. So, and you love the people there. So that's really an exciting time. And I'm super excited. And I'm super excited to take you guys along this journey. Again, some of you, because it was on my Instagram story for like a minute and then I took it down. Some of you already know the position that I did accept, but do not say anything, please, in the comments until I announce it, which will probably be sometime this month. I'm super excited. I hope you guys are excited, and I'm excited to go on this journey. This video probably was all over the place because that's how my interview process was. It was all over the place. It was hectic. It was crazy. But if you guys want me to make a video for y'all all about interview tips, honestly, I have so many. As far as like how your resume should look, what type of paper your resume should be on, how should your portfolios look, what should you bring to you on the interview, how should you dress for the interview. There's so much stuff that needs to be covered that I feel like is important. If you want to go in and secure that job, it's really important to follow those things, because when I first started this, I had no idea and I had to be taught it. So if you want that video, comment it down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Graduation is next month. I'm so excited. I take my pictures next Sunday. It's coming together, guys. All what I've been doing for the past 2.5 years, working my butt off for this degree, is finally paying off. I got my job. I'm about to graduate, and I am gonna take you guys along on this entire journey like I have been. So like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you later. Bye, guys.